In today's video, we are breaking down the biggest rivalry to come out of Japan. One that has just absolutely dominated American culture since the start. No, not that one. Today, we're settling the score on the 2JZ vs RB26 debate. Two legendary inline sixes with two insane reputations, but only one can be crowned the king. Let's start with some basic information on these two JDM legends. The RB26 DETT came first, with Nissan developing it for the R32 GTR in the late 80s, and it was an absolute monster for its time. It's 2.6 liter inline six with a true twin turbo setup and individual throttle bodies, culminated in the engine putting out 270 horsepower, which we all know by now is due to a gentleman's agreement. Then came the 2JZ GTE in the 1990s, powering the MK4 Supra. Now this was a 3-liter inline six with sequential turbos and a cast iron block so strong that the US Air Force just dropped 2 bunker busters on it just to prove that they work. Now all of this combined produced an amazing 270 horsepower again. Both of these engines were over-engineered and underrated and designed to dominate Group A and street racing alike. This is where things start to get juicy. Both engines are legends in the tuning world, but let's talk about their strengths and their weaknesses. And yes, these engines do have weaknesses. The 2JZ GTE is known for its bulletproof bottom end, which can handle 800 horsepower reliably. Add in some billet main caps, and the stock block can live well into the quadruple digit horsepower range, thanks in large parts to its Siamese bores and its overbuilt casting. And with aftermarket internals, there are plenty of examples of these engines living long lives in the 1200 to 1600 horsepower ranges, even as daily driven street cars. Now, as strong as it is, the 2JZ is not without its shortcomings. For instance, it does not have the best flowing heads of its era. Engines like the S54 have better flowing heads. Also, the stock main caps do tend to tap out around 800 horsepower, and stock rods and pistons exit the chat once you start approaching that 4th digit in your horsepower numbers. Now, even with all of its shortcomings, the 2JZ does have a massive aftermarket, so it does become relatively easy to fix these shortcomings. On the other hand, the RB26 is a high revving and super responsive engine thanks to its individual throttle bodies, strong factory head designs with solid flow capability, and the block can still handle around 600 to 800 horsepower. However, it is much more temperamental at the high end than the 2J is. It is a true twin turbo setup, which makes maintaining the factory setup or even upgrading while maintaining the true OEM spirit much easier. However, just like the 2JZ, the RB does have some faults of its own. Its oiling system is definitely inferior to the 2JZ. The bottom end is substantially weaker than the 2J, even needing a girdle from the factory, and of course it's still almost half a liter smaller. But perhaps the biggest shortcoming of the RB26 compared to the 2JZ is it's just a much rarer engine, which makes it much more unobtainable. Here's the truth: if you want an engine that can handle abuse and make 4-digit horsepower on stock geometry, then the 2JZ is your friend. But if you're a fan of an engine that's rev happy with a razor sharp throttle response, then the RB26 feels more like a precision scalpel than a brute force sledgehammer. Now this next part is arguably the one area the 2JZ just cannot compete with the RB26, and that is the sound. The RB26 has that iconic high-pitched rasp. It screams as it runs through the rev range. Whereas the 2JZ sounds deeper and more aggressive, and honestly, it sounds like Vegeta trying to beat the shit out of you just to prove a point. Let us know which one you think sounds better. You can tell us in the comments, but in my opinion, this is just the one area where the 2JZ has no chance. On the flip side, this is the area where the 2JZ has the clear advantage. Now let's be real, none of these engines are cheap RB26s are getting harder to find and the prices are rising extremely fast. And while 2JZs are still available, good condition long blocks, even the Facebook Marketplace IS300 2JZ GE pools aren't exactly budget builds anymore. However, they are still significantly cheaper and easier to build and find parts for than the RB26 is. And as far as reliability goes, the 2JZ is known to be more forgiving, especially in poorly tuned builds, and that's due to its forged rotating assembly from the factory, its stronger casting, and the lower compression ratio. However, the RB26, it needs love, it needs a good tune, otherwise things get expensive really fast. Okay, but how do they drive on the street? The 2JZ has better torque down low thanks to the larger displacement and the variable valve timing, while the RB26 needs to really hit that higher rev range in order to feel alive. But when it does, it is absolute ecstasy to drive. So which engine wins? Here's the breakdown. The 2JZ is best for big power, drag builds, drifting, bulletproof reliability, and plug-and-play aftermarket support, while the RB26 is best for track use, balanced driving, and high RPM excitement while delivering some of the best sounds you ever heard. And at the end of the day, it's a flex to say that you have a GTR engine. Both are legends, but if I had to pick one for that do-it-all build that makes power, takes abuse, and just sounds and feels like Vegeta going into rage after somebody just put hands on his wife,
that's my
I'm going to pick the 2JZ every time. But hey, JD and Purist, what's your take? Drop it in the comments. Are you team RB or are you team 2J? If you like this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives, and don't forget to share this video with your other gearhead friends. Thanks for watching. I'm Sanjo, and I'll see you in the next video.